Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another video here on the channel. It's been a while since we've done a video. This one's not specifically Donny related, but it is related to the club because obviously it's one of the competitions that, you know, we're in, and it is going to affect the way we potentially live stream the draw as well for the Carabao Cup. And that is the topic of today, the Carabao Cup, because breaking news has come out this afternoon today that there's a preliminary round coming in. That's an easy one to say. A preliminary round because of an imbalance, because of all the teams that's going into Europe this year at the top levels. So we're going to get into all the details. There's been a massive divide on this. I'm going to share the facts and stats. I'll share my opinions on it as well. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, hit notification bell so you never miss another video. Stay tuned for more content because we are going to produce some more content when new signings come out. We might do some educational stuff on Rovers for any young fans that don't know much about former players from back in the day. So I'll get all the research out, do the history, get the history books, and do some educational stuff to get you guys in the mix. I'm putting my presentation for the season together, ready for next season. So got teams, the ins and outs of the transfer market, what the style of play is looking like, how can we beat them, and stuff like that. So all the tactical breakdown stuff will be coming next season, hopefully, as well. But let's get straight into this, because there's quite a bit to digest with this one, both factually and opinion-based. So if you haven't seen it already, let's give you what we like to call the juicy details. So and I'm kind of reading off this to kind of overall via the EFL source. So for the first time since 2011, 2012, the Carabao Cup will feature a preliminary round. And it's even more extensive this particular time. And this is a more thorough preliminary round than the last one. And I'll go into detail about the last one as well. So the two bottom sides in League 2 that were not relegated, Accrington Stanley and Newport County, and the two promoted teams from the Vanarama National League, Barnet and Oldham Athletic, they will be facing off against each other, and the ties have been regionalised, north v south. Again, that's the first time that's happened for that period of time as well. So Accrington Stanley will face Oldham Athletic and Barnet will face Newport County. And these matches determine the final two spots in the Carabao Cup. Now, these will be decided in terms of who gets the home tie in those one-off matches, along with the rest of the Carabao Cup draw on the 26th of June. So on the 26th of June, not only will we find out our opponents in the Carabao Cup round 1, but we'll also find out who hosts the two matches out of those four teams. So we'll see if the Accrington Oldham match, for example, will either be at the Wham Stadium or it will be at Boundary Park. Same with Barnet Newport. Will it be at Rodney Parade or the Hive? We'll find that out on the day of the draw of the Carabao Cup. And the purpose is they've reduced the number of teams before round 1 and 2, so the 9 Premier League clubs in European competitions can all begin in round 3. So that is basically the main purpose behind this, is to make sure that the top clubs that are in European competition all go together in round 3 as a kind of, like, because from a competition perspective and from a competition structure perspective, they're probably looking at that at the start thinking, right, we can't have some European clubs going in round 2 and some going in round 3. Let's get all of them together in round 3. And unfortunately, with it being lower league teams in the competition as well, it means that to help this purpose and to serve this purpose, they've got to make sacrifice. And I do feel sorry for the Barnet fans, for the Newport fans, for the Oldham fans, for the Accrington Stanley fans, who've now got to go through an extra game on top of their games already to earn their spot to potentially be drawn against the likes of the Liverpools and the Uniteds going forward in round 3, etc., if they get that far. So, obviously, as a lower league football fan, it's not a great feeling, and it's not a nice feeling at all, and we can all share that feeling. But on the bigger picture, on the grand scheme of things, when you're thinking about all levels of English football, unfortunately, it's what's... it might be harsh when I say this, but I think it's been It's kind of like the EFL and the Premier League's necessary sacrifice. And I don't like using that word, necessary sacrifice, but I think from a business sense and from a competition perspective, it is a necessary sacrifice in terms of what they're implementing here and why they're doing it. So, and for those of you who don't know, this has happened before, a bit less than this, but it has happened before. If you think back to 2011, 2012, only one preliminary match was held between Crawley Town and AFC Wimbledon, and this was to qualify for the first round. And that, in terms of the reason, if you're wondering what the reason was for that, is because Birmingham City were the reigning Carling Cup winners at that point. Obviously, they were the 2010-2011 winners over Arsene Wenger's Arsenal in the final. And Birmingham, being the Carling Cup champions, they were relegated from the Premier League as well, but qualified for the Europa League, earning them a direct bye into round 3 of the competition. And on top of that, Fulham secured an extra Europa League spot via the Fair Play ranking. So 2 fewer teams entered in the first round, upsetting the standard bracket of 32 at the time. And to restore balance, they introduced the preliminary round between the 2 lowest ranked teams, newly promoted Crawley Town at the time and AFC Wimbledon, on the 29th of July 2011, and that single match brought the entry numbers back up into 32. So it's not the first time it's happened, and like I said, the reason why it happened, like we said, Birmingham, immediate bye to round 3, Fulham, through fair play, entered late into the Europa, because of the Europa spot, number imbalance, fewer entries in the first round, they needed one-off elimination, and that's what happened. And in fact, if we go back to that game between Crawley and Wimbledon, it was a 3-2 win for Crawley, if you want to know. And I think Crystal Palace ended up beating them 2-0 in the first round anyway. So I think both teams ended up being out by round 1 regardless. So, yeah, it's like I said, as a lower league fan, it's not a nice feeling at all. It isn't a nice feeling at all. And my heart is with Barnet fans, Newport fans, Stanley fans, Newport, Accrington, Barnet, Oldham. It's not nice. It's not a nice feeling at all. And I don't like it as a lower league football fan. I never liked it. But unfortunately, if I try and keep my head on a neutral for a second, which I know is hard to do sometimes, but I think it's fair. And I'm going to get a ton of comments now for saying that, like, oh, Chal, what are you saying, blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, when you look at the Prem teams and the Champ teams, and when you judge it overall, unfortunately, it's the only decision they could make. They can't just... And you know, I've seen comments from people online saying, oh, just take the European teams out of it, let some new people win the competition. They clearly didn't care about the League Cup anyway, and, you know, Premier League fans don't care about the League Cup. I get it, but then that takes broadcasting, it takes media attention, it takes so much away financially from the competition without those kind of teams that it becomes a slow downward spiral to potentially even lose that competition altogether. One of the reasons I love the Virtue Trophy, and one of the reasons I've said for weeks now to people who support Rovers as well, I want us to try and go for the Virtue Trophy this season if we can, and try and get to Wembley and win that trophy, because we're not going to go up from League One this season. I don't think we're going to go up this season. We're not there to make up the numbers, but we're not going to be like one of the favourites to go up this year by a long shot. But the Virtue Trophy is great for our lower league game. And yeah, the Premier League Academy increase has not been fantastic overall in terms of fan opinion. But I think the positive with the Premier League Academies for the Virtue Trophy is it gives them senior football experience. But then again, you've got the National League Cup now. So it's like, you've got the National League clubs. Why keep them in our competition when you've got the National League Cup now? So there's the whole debate around that, which we'll get into probably in a different, time. But I don't. It's a hard place for me to be in at the minute, because on this particular topic, because on the face of it, when you put your head on as a businessman, and when you put your head on it as someone who leads the competition's executive team, it's the only decision you could make, because you can't just take European clubs out and take away some of their financial income. Unfortunately, that is the case. Unfortunately, that's the harsh way of thinking about it. As a lower league football fan, I'm absolutely heartbroken that Barnet, Newport, Oldham, and Accrington have to go through an extra game to earn the right to be in the competition that was originally called the EFL Cup, just to put it out there, because of 9 clubs being in Europe this year. You know, if Crystal Palace get rejected, it'll be 8. But you get what I mean. Yeah, I don't know, just something kind of stinks a little bit about this one, I can't lie to you. But, like I said, I've got to see this from both sides. I can't... People say I've got splinters on my backside for sitting on the fence, etc. I don't care. I don't care what people think about me from this perspective. I don't care. I'm in my life now where I don't care what people say. I will just say it how I think it is. If people think it's supporting the PR, then they can go ahead and say that. If people think I'm supporting the process of the competition and kiss ass in the competition, then you can go ahead and say that. I don't care. I literally do not give a flying rat's backside what you think. My perspective is, and I'm thinking about this devil's advocate, if I was a competition exec, it's the only decision I could make. As a lower league football fan, personally, it's not nice seeing this, and I do feel sorry for the 4 clubs involved and the fan bases involved, going through an extra game, especially when you've got Premier League clubs going on post-season tours to abroad. You know, we had the FA Cup replay scrapped, and you got clubs from the Prem going abroad and doing things over there. You had the news from the Serie A this week that I think Milan versus someone could be played in Australia next season for one game. And, it's going in a weird direction, football. But like I said, if I was putting my head on the head of an exec, it's the only decision you'd make, which is, it might be a harsh thing to say, but you've got to have that mindset as well as the mindset of a football fan. As a football fan, I'm devastated. I feel sorry for the 4 clubs involved. If I was thinking like an exec, when you've got the big teams with the money, you can't just take them out of the competition, because that dwindles your financial... the financial interest in the competition, and eventually you might not have a competition. So, is there a way they could have gone around it? I think there could have been. I think there really could have been. They could have gone down the route of the teams in Europe. Let's just let them all qualify in round 4. Let's move them up to round 4 so we can give those extra spots to Accrington, Oldham, Barnet, Newport, and if there's any extra spaces, give it to the next higher up National League clubs and give them some EFL experience if they haven't already. But it's a hard one for me. It's a really, really hard one. As a football fan, I'm devastated. If I was thinking like someone who worked for the EFL Cup, for the Carabao Cup, for the brand, for the English Football League, when you're working with the Premier League as well, you've not really got much say in the matter. So it's a hard one for me. I think it was the only decision they could have made or should have made. But it's a hard pill to swallow, because you have to feel sorry for the 4 clubs involved in that decision. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like I say, if you think I'm being a kiss ass, that's up to you. I don't really care. If you think I'm being fair here, then thank you for at least seeing the fairness that I'm trying to be. I'm trying to see it from both sides of the argument, from the football fan side and the clubs that are being sacrificed for this move, for the European clubs, and obviously on the side of the competition as well, and trying to think from both their perspectives and mash it into my brain and express it with words. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video very, very soon. Take care, have a wonderful rest of your day. Ta-ra for now.